infect as many species as possible, which means he need to compare which one is the most infectious, and then he selected one. So he finished his test in May or June of 2019. So that was the most, of course, shocking revelation he made to my interviewee, and he is explicitly used the word bioweapon, and he believed that what he was doing was to create bioweapon. So that's the most shocking piece of a revelation he made or claim he made to my interviewee. It's already completed. So his task was just to select the one that is best. But he, of course, said this is engineered, artificially engineered.
How were he and his colleagues made to test this strain, and where all were they sent?
I did ask my interviewee, did you notice any increase of infections in Xinjiang area? And he said yes, because in the spring, there were only 2 provinces in China which has very little cases, which is in Xinjiang and Xizang, because they are very less populated area. But in the summer, the cases in Xinjiang suddenly jumped.
You're saying that all of this conversation happened in 2020.
Yes, he said that in April 2020, Shan Chao sent messages to my interviewee. He said he was already on the plane, and the plane was going to fly to Xinjiang, and he was sent to Xinjiang to do health checks to the Uyghurs who were detained in the re-education camp, so that the surface messages he sent to my interviewee.
Shifting our focus then, before we wrap this edition of Nation at 5, the US Coast Guard has found what they claim could be human remains as far as the Titan sub is concerned. Remember, this had 5 people on board. Let's take a look at this report. It's a wrap from my side. Thanks a lot for watching.
A Canadian-flagged ship brought ashore debris from the Titan submersible on Wednesday that imploded while on a voyage to the century-old wreck of the Titanic earlier this month, killing all 5 people on board. Shattered fragments were pulled up by a crane off the Horizon Arctic vessel and onto a truck at the St. John's Harbour in Newfoundland. The debris is expected to shed more light on the cause of the catastrophic implosion that killed everyone on board. OceanGate Expedition CEO Stockton Rush, British billionaire Hamish Harding, Pakistani-born business leader Shehzad Dawood, and his 19-year-old son Suleiman. And, beyond that, French oceanographer Paul-Henri Nargeolet. It was not immediately clear where the debris was headed. Canadian and United States authorities have in the past week announced investigations into the incident, which has raised questions about the unregulated nature of such expeditions. The deep-sea submersible operated by OceanGate Expeditions was discovered in pieces on the seabed some 488 meters away from the bow of the Titanic by a robotic diving vehicle last week, ending a multinational 5-day search for survivors.
Good evening. You're watching Viewpoint here on CNN News 18 with me, Poonam Burde. It's been 37 days since the Siddharamaiah government took oath in Karnataka, and as promised before elections in the first cabinet meeting, the government decided to implement the 5 guarantees that they made in their manifesto. But is signing on the dotted line enough? The proof of the pudding is in eating it, but unfortunately for the beneficiaries of those schemes in Karnataka, that road is a long one. If one's to judge the Karnataka government and the guarantees and the promises that they made in their manifesto, not many will be impressed as far as the execution of those promises is going. One front after another, the state government seems to be faltering in either implementing these guarantees to begin with or following through on its implementation in a smooth manner. The path which served to be the expressway for the Congress party towards its victory in the states now seems to be riddled with speed breakers, or if I may pun in the context of Bengaluru, riddled with potholes. So what seems to be the trouble? Are these just teething issues, or is this whole plan an ill-conceived one? Add to that the cost to the exchequer. The Chief Minister himself not too long ago estimated the cost of the implementation of these promises to be close to 60,000 crore rupees for just 1 year. Where is that money coming from and at what cost? Before we get into that debate, let me break down for you the hurdles with these 5 guarantees that were announced by the state government. Let's first begin with the Gruha Jyoti scheme. That ensured that there were 200 units of free monthly power to every single family. They could apply for it. Now, the problem with that is that even though you're eligible for that 200 rupee free units, now you will be paying more for the rest of it because power bills have been hiked by 60 to 80%. Coming up next with the other scheme, which is the Gruha Lakshmi one. As far as that scheme went, beneficiaries, which is the woman head of every family, was to be given 2,000 rupees per month. The problem that this particular scheme faces is that there is really no clarity. There is no provision for new female heads. If there are multiple of them, who does the money go to? Shifting focus to the rice scheme, the Anna Bhagya scheme. Remember, in their manifesto, the Congress party promised 10 kilograms of free rice to below poverty line families. There were massive hurdles with that. They couldn't procure the amount of rice that was actually needed to implement this particular scheme. There was shortage, which is why they've now decided to, instead of giving those 10 kilograms of rice, give these people money. The Yuva Nidhi scheme, over 1,000 rupees was to be given to unemployed diploma holders. The problem with this particular scheme is that the scheme comes with certain conditions, ones that was not prior intimated. The fact that it is only applicable to Kannadigas, to domicile members of the state. Next, and perhaps the one that affects every single citizen of the state, or at least those who use public transport regularly. This is the Shakti scheme. Under this scheme, it was meant to empower women, to increase the participation of women in workforce. But the problem with ensuring free rides for women is that clearly there wasn't enough provision made for extra buses. There's extreme overcrowding that we are seeing. There are certain reports of accidents coming to the fore as well. The KSRTC, of course, has come out and denied those claims. But those reports are taking place. Whether it's a smear campaign or whether it's an ill-conceived plan, that's up for debate. Now, there was a timeline that was set by the Karnataka government as to when these schemes were to be implemented, in what way, in what manner, in how many months it was going to come out to. Now, the registration for the Congress-led Karnataka government's Gruha Jyoti scheme, which provides free electricity of up to 200 units, that registration opened up from the 18th of June. So far, over 51 lakh people have already registered for the scheme. But there has been a hike in electricity bills otherwise. That has now ensured that there is some heat on the state government. Because at least as far as trader bodies go, they are now up in arms against the kind of increase in their tariff goes. They also called for a ban not too long ago. Moving on to the Gruha Lakshmi scheme. It's to be implemented from the 1st of July, which is in about 2 days from now. But there is no clarity as to who exactly the beneficiary in that family is going to be. Now, the Congress promised an additional 5 kilograms of rice per month in the election manifesto. That was the Anna Bhagya scheme, like I just pointed out. That too was supposed to be implemented from the 1st of July. But it hit a hurdle because the Karnataka government faced difficulty in procuring this additional rice. The FCI and the Karnataka government were at loggerheads. The rice is not coming in, which is why the state government has now decided that they are going to be providing money instead. They are going to be giving cash at the rate of 34 rupees per kilogram to these beneficiaries. Shifting focus now to the 5th guarantee that the Congress made, the Yuva Nidhi scheme. It is a guarantee to the state's educated unemployed youth that they would get monthly cash by the state government. This was to aid not just their welfare but also of their families. That came with terms and conditions. Those terms and conditions, the fine print, was not something that was announced previously. It would only be open to the domiciles of Karnataka, only to Kannadigas. That was what was later then announced by the state government. The Shakti scheme, through which women can travel for free in non-premium services of state-run buses across the state. That has led to overcrowding. We've seen several of those videos that have now gone viral. Allegedly, there have been accidents that have taken place as well, unfortunately, due to which there have been injuries. So what exactly happened in the last 37 days and prior to the elections in the run-up when these promises were made? Did the Congress government underestimate how mammoth this task was going to be? Did they bite off more than they could chew? That's the big debate tonight.
women passengers in Karnataka are enjoying free bus rides as part of Congress government's ambitious scheme, the Shakti scheme. The state-run transport corporations are struggling to keep pace and demand as overcrowded buses has become a major cause for concern. Well, I am right now in Majestic, which is a popular bus stop in the Bengaluru, and here you can see in the BMTC bus how people are all very standing with no space and are really struggling as well to find space for themselves.
Out of 25,000 villages, except 300 villages, we have transportation. Every day, 156 trips will be there. Maybe one or two, that's all.
1 crore 10 lakh people are traveling every day in the same number of routes. In fact, it is on record says that there are only 19,300 buses are flying every day, and some people are even trying to say because KSRTC, BMTC, NW and any KSRTC do not have sufficient funds, they may stop another 2,000 to 3,000 buses quite shortly. Meaning to say that number of travelers has increased, number of routes and buses has reduced.
Joining me on this broadcast, spokesperson of the Karnataka BJP, Vijay Prasad, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, spokesperson of the Karnataka Congress is with me. Brinda Adige, an activist and a citizen of Bengaluru is with me as well, and senior journalist B.S. Arun joins me on this broadcast. But let me begin by asking Bhavya Narasimhamurthy, would you, the Congress, agree that this could have been managed better?
You know, a policy of such a stature, which involves 7 crore peoples, opening it up to half the population for free, yes, we have implemented a historic policy. There have been incidences that you're saying, but it was blown out of proportion by the opposition party by making fake videos, and it is all over the news. And whatever you're saying, yes, with the policy, it's always progressive, right? If there are any changes needed, we will definitely bring about the changes that are needed. But we need to look at the main intention of this policy, that is to empower women, to increase their workforce participation. And if you see even the economic development because of that, most of the places, the revenues have been increased, most of the temples and tourist places, the revenue has been increased. Economy-wise, and even the number of people, people traveling, it's only been a huge success, the Shakti scheme.
Sure.
But then, okay, if there are any such things where we can correct and where we can make some modifications to the policy, and if needed be, if the buses need to be added, because Bangalore, whether it is Bengaluru or Karnataka, we have a very good public transport system which was underused before this scheme.
Sure.
Now they are using it well, and as they already know, the public transport PSU was under loss. Now, definitely, if the government is compensating for all the women who are traveling.
Sure.
Of course, that will also, not run under the loss. They will be profitable. So we need to look at the bigger picture. And these videos that have been circulated online, made viral through the BJP IT cell, I agree. If there is any such thing, there might be 1 or 2 cases like this. That doesn't mean we can disregard the whole importance of such.
No one is trying to disregard the intent behind these promises that were made and the implementation. All I asked you was that could this have been managed better? Could the execution have managed better? And I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. Because as far as this particular scheme is concerned, I'll tell you why I'm asking you this. As far as the Shakti scheme is concerned, there has been at least a 23% increase in the number of commuters as far as these buses go. But the fleet size remains the same. How could the government, how could the Congress party not have anticipated this before they made the decision, before they decided to implement it?
So the 23% increase in what is that you mentioned? Can you please repeat that?
This is as far as commuters go. There has been a 23% increase as far as commuters go, irrespective of the gender. But this is after the implementation of the scheme.
There are two things. Yes, the commuters have increased. There are 2 things. It's mostly during the weekends where they want to go to some tourist places. They're not the regular travelers. When it comes to the regular travelers, I don't think there is much difference in that. Mostly during weekends and sometimes even during weekdays. And this is the beginning of the policy, and I'm sure everybody is excited to go to some tourist places. I don't think this 23% you are speaking about is permanent, and it's not going to remain the same or uniform for a long time. The policy has been implemented only some 20 days ago, and that's the reason many footsteps or how we count it, head counts have been increased. I don't think this will remain constant for us to make any permanent changes to that. You know, people are excited, women are excited in groups, in their friends group. They're going, visiting places, you know, which they had not explored.
Sure. So these are the teething troubles. This overcrowding is not going to stay, Vijay Prasad. And if it does stay, then the Congress says we'll course correct.
See, couple of things have come out on this things. See, Siddaramaia's government has become a classic example of ill-planned, ill-conceived government, ill-conceived ideas, wherein they are unable to implement whatever the promises they have made. If you see all the promises that they are trying to implement here, be it Gruh Jyoti scheme or be it Annabhagya scheme, each and every step they are trying to, they are stumbling upon. And Gruh Jyoti scheme came out with a lot of conditions. Initially they said if they take out their page 10 of their manifesto, they said 200 units free. Later on, when they started implementing, they started saying 10 months average. Okay, you cannot use up to 200 units. The person using 100 units, they will take 10% buffer, 110, not more than that. So why did they have to say 200 units in the first place? So that means to say, you before the elections, you started giving false promises, and when the actually you formed the government, you are going back with those promises and making sure that those promises are not kept. Even though the promises are being kept, they are coming with a lot of riders. So Siddaramaiah, who boasts of 13 budgets, and who says been experienced for 2 times chief minister, should be in a position to plan better rather than giving this ill-conceived, ill-planned schemes. So what is he going to prove? So today, as far as the Annabhagya scheme is concerned, Siddaramaiah has proved himself that he is not becoming Anna Ramaiah, he is becoming Mani Ramaiah and Sullu Ramaiah. This is exactly what the Congress is all about. Couple of things in the last since yesterday, if you look into the statement of CM Siddaramaiah, couple of things have come out in open. One thing is, it is for good sake they have accepted that whatever the 5 kg grains that is being distributed to the people through PDS is coming from Modi government through the central government. That they have accepted it. The second thing, they said, page 10 of their manifesto, they said 10 kg free rice. They never said that 10 kg included 5 of the central government. They never said. So they are going back on the promise. Now they are confirming that the people of Karnataka will get only 5 kg rice. Now they are not getting rice, they are getting money instead of the rice. So they are going back on those promises. So what happened to the other balance 5 kgs? Again, the Congress is not sticking up to its promise made before the elections. So this is, and the third thing which has come out in open, which Congress has directly accepted, is the DBT. So this 170 rupees, which Congress is trying to credit to the people of Karnataka through direct benefit transfer, which is implemented by the BJP government. So what are we going to tell the people of Karnataka?
Sure.
So are they getting, see, last week...
I get your point. I get your point that the promises that were made before elections are not the ones that are being implemented. A lot of fine print came to the fore much later, and all of this was only used to win elections. But that did win them elections. Implementation is in its early stages. It's just been a few days, the Congress says. Give it some time. Be patient. Stay on with me. Yeah, stay on with me. I want to get in the other 2 panelists on the debate as well. B.S. Arun, one aspect, of course, is as far as the implementation goes. The other aspect is, where is this money coming from? We have the Chief Minister himself going on to say that this is going to cost 60,000 crore rupees for just 1 year. We have the small-scale industries minister of the state going on to say that at least in the first year of the Congress's government, there will be some infrastructure projects that will be hit because that money has been diverted for these for the implementation of these guarantees.
Well, Karnataka budget is going to be presented in about 10 days from now. I think it's on July 8th. I think we need to wait until the budget day when the chief minister, who is also the finance minister, presents his budget. Yes, 60,000 is a huge number even for a state like Karnataka, which has a total budget outlay of around 3.5 lakh crore. I think there will be, because of the size of 60,000 crore, I think there will be some taxes on the citizens. I think that needs to be expected this time. Also, it would be interesting to know what are the other sources that from which the chief minister will raise the revenues, and how many new schemes will be there, or how many old schemes would be hit. As of now, because of the the allegations of corruption are involved, the projects the infrastructure projects that were taken up by the previous BJP government have been stalled. Until that is the one thing that the BJP, the current government, will have to provide money. And for other schemes, it may, and I'm sure it will bring out some new schemes. For that, also it has to produce the outlays. So it's going to be an interesting situation for the chief minister as well as for the opposition to see how many schemes would be stalled, how many new schemes would be started, and what is the new burden on the people of Karnataka.
The new burden is what? Yes, the new burden is what many are talking about, and it's not just your political rivals, Bhavya Narasimhamurthy. It's what even the very citizen of Karnataka is wondering. Because we did see an increase in power tariff just a few days after the Congress government came to power. The Congress said that this was nothing to do with us. The corporations are not governed by the state. But it still does end up being a burden for the common man in the state of Karnataka.
Let me give you one fact straight, that the electricity bill, it was increased in April. It was done on May 12th, one day before the results, by the BJP government, but it was retrospectively applied from April, the month of April. And today, whatever the electricity bill was, it includes the arrears for the past 2 months. And only after we came to power and we have given a date from when the Griha Jyoti will be applied, then it will be free for the people, whoever deserves it. The second thing, I would like to first respond to the BJP spokesperson when he spoke about our guarantees. First of all, they need to make some things clear to us. Like, they're so confused. They started with, they can't implement guarantees. They have to implement, otherwise we are going to go on street. And we implemented Shakti, we spoke about Gruha Lakshmi, the very first cabinet, full-fledged cabinet. We gave complete, approval for all the 5 guarantees. Then they could not do anything. Then came to Anna Bhagya scheme. Then we had announced 10 kg of rice. We had requested FCI on 9th, 12th. FCI agreed to give us, and 30 the government.
You talk about what you are doing.
After that, 5 kgs of rice.
We have clearly reported
itself.
Whatever the false promises you have made.
No, let me finish, please. So, then the BJP people themselves, even the spokesperson and the BJP leaders said, why don't you give them the money if you can't provide with rice? If you're blaming central government for playing petty politics, why don't you give them money? And we are doing exactly that. We are going to provide 5 kg of rice and 5 kg worth of money through direct benefit transfer until we can procure rice from any of those rice growing states. We are doing this. We will be, whatever the amount we will be buying from, that much amount per person, we are going to send it through direct benefit transfer. So every guarantee, no matter how much the BJP is trying to play their petty politics, because the people of Karnataka believe in us, they have trusted in us and in our promises, we are making sure that we are implementing it.
Sure,
BJP
but like I said,
BJP has nothing to speak against us. So they're like coming up with these petty politics, like, not providing us with rice when they can provide it for ethanol production.
Sure.
For lesser cost, 20 rupees.
Sure, but Bhavya, because you said that there are other states that will help you procure this rice, I want to also want to point out that at least 2 states, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, have refused to supply that rice to you. Chhattisgarh, which is a Congress-ruled state, has decided that they will supply it as and when it's possible. But look at the transportation cost as one of those things that will add to this. It's just going to be an added burden on the exchequer. And where is that money coming from?
No.
Shouldn't these things have been thought of earlier is what we're trying to ask.
See, one thing, the Congress...
Mr. Prasad, I'll come to you. Bhavya, go ahead.
In fact, the NCCF has agreed to give it to us for 32 rupees 94 paise per kg. But we have asked it for 32 rupees 24 paise because that is how much our exchequer can afford, you know, per of rice. NCCF has agreed till 0.94 paise. There are some 70 paise difference is what the talks are going on with the NCCF. The talks are going on with Punjab government as well. So I'm sure somehow we will procure. But until then, you know, since we had promised that from July 1st, we implementing, we are going to transfer the money through direct benefit transfer.
Sure. So we'll take it as it goes. Mr. Prasad will take it as it goes, says the Congress party.
Opposition leader.
The promise was to implement it. That has been implemented now. If there are teething troubles, we'll look at it.
No. This is the classic case of a shoddy mismanagement and shoddy implementation. So nothing short of those words. So Congress has totally mismanaged these schemes, and now states like Chhattisgarh, Punjab, Telangana, Andhra, they have totally rejected these people. Now they are saying that they'll go into the call the tender process in the open market. See now the next question that arises: what about the balance 5 kgs which Congress had promised? They promised 5 plus 10 kgs. They are giving only 5 plus 5 kgs. 5 kgs they have accepted yesterday that it is coming from the central government, from the Modi government. The balance 5 kgs they are giving the money. What happened to the balance 5 kgs? Are they putting 60 rupees at per kg? Who are they trying to fool? Who are they trying to fool around? Why are they not talking about the balance 5 kgs? See now, and the other main thing which we are foreseeing right now is the mismanagement in the tender process. Now, through the open market, the A1 quality rice was being given at 34 rupees. Now, in the open tender, in the open market scheme, will the same Siddaramaiah government will procure A1 quality rice at 34 rupees and provide to the people of Karnataka? I don't think so. And they call this a tender process. We know the history of Congress, how they are good in getting themselves into this scam.
Sure.
So we have seen in the past.
Sure. So several questions are being raised. Let's not make allegations without substantiating them with any proof. But I will get in Brinda Adige as well. She's been patiently waiting. And Brinda Adige, I want to ask you as a citizen of Bengaluru, the common man, the common person on ground in Bengaluru, do they feel as forgiving as the Congress would want them to feel? That these are teething troubles and we'll overcome them. But in the meanwhile, there may be, your bills might be increased. You might face inconvenience as far as travel goes. But well, we'll try and smooth those issues over a period of time.
Well, the question that you asked just now, I want to also make a point. One is the word that's being used, freebies. I think we should remove that. These are welfare measures, and every citizen falling within the various categories and brackets is entitled to it. Now, as a citizen, do we feel frustrated because, like you mentioned, and all of the discussions that happen, buses are crowded, overcrowded, students, especially school students and college students, are suffering because it is the time that they need to be going to school and college, the buses are crowded and they go in late. Yes, there is a lot of frustration on the field and citizens are bearing this pain. That is something that the government has to understand, and the spokesperson from Congress must ensure that the CM has to make immediate decisions to this effect. We cannot wait because you are saying that 1 crore travelers now from 8 lakh, which means your bus fleet has to increase and citizens cannot be put to any kind of trouble, especially the young people, children and youngsters. So that grouse has been there and it continues. Secondly, you mentioned about the rice. I think this government is about 5 to 6 weeks old. And there is a lot of politics that is going around everywhere. I'm not taking up for anybody, but I want to look at it from a level-headed point of view to say that procure whatever you promised for the citizens of Karnataka. How you get it, what you're going to do, it's not our business. Your job is to make it effective and efficient so that your promises reach the needy person. Here we are talking about the BPL families, and they are the most needy. So they are looking forward to that rice, and that rice must reach them. So you will have to work on it very, very fast. And a month or a couple more weeks, citizens will keep quiet. After that, they are going to feel frustrated and saying that their hopes were simply raised, and this is unacceptable because these promises were made and citizens believe that these promises are going to be upheld by the ruling party just now.
Yes.
Thirdly, you're talking about electricity bills that are being charged to the citizens in retrospect. Who should we blame? I think we need to place the responsibility and hold the government accountable for not talking about it the entire month of April and then giving us the bill with arrears in the month of June. That is absolutely unacceptable. All of us are struggling. And remember, this is the time when people are also paying school fees, college fees. And then when you get an electricity bill that is so bloated, it does pinch pockets. So I hope the people get to know and the government comes out and says exactly when you're going to give the 200 units that you say are going to be free. Do not add riders to it, because that is a hope that citizens like me are looking forward to. You might say that, oh, the middle class, upper middle class doesn't need it. Everybody needs it. When a bloated bill of electricity comes like this, it is unacceptable. Yes, you will have to tax people, but do tax everybody.
Yes.
And I think elected representatives must be taxed more.
Yes. And
because they have a responsibility towards the citizens.
What everybody needs may not necessarily be these schemes. They may be only required for a certain section of society, but what everybody does need is clarity. And that seems to be somewhere missing. That seems to also be one of the issues as far as implementation of these schemes are concerned. Sure, any government, any political party, any administration would have these teething troubles. But why not come clean on them, give some sort of clarity to the people of the state?
You're absolutely right. That clarity is very, very important.
Yes.
Because I think many of us, our BPs went up the day we saw the electricity bills.
Absolutely.
That
clarity is important. B.S. Arun, I want you to have the last word. I'm running short of time. Go ahead, B.S. Arun.
Yeah, there could have been a better explanation of these schemes and as to how they will implement, what are the teething problems and how they are going to overcome these teething problems. But then, as you yourself have mentioned, it's only a few weeks old. I think we need to give more time for the state government to work on these schemes because, when the manifesto came, it was before the elections. They didn't have access to either the statistics, better statistics, or of a discussion with the officials who know better than these politicians as far as the implementation of the schemes are concerned. So I think we need to give more time. And as far as the rice scheme is concerned, it's only giving the money is only an interim arrangement. The state government has said that it will float tenders for rice procurement, and once the rice is available, it's going to resume. It is going to start giving rice. I think it's a matter of time before the state government procures the rice that is required. And until then, money is being given, and I think people would not be unhappy with that because they can buy other grains. I mean, whether it's edible oil.
So it's not a complete lose-lose situation as far as the state of Karnataka goes, is what many believe. These are teething issues. The Congress is confident they will overcome. The political fight continues meanwhile, even as the last person on ground in Karnataka hopes for at least some clarity as far as the implementations of the scheme go. But I thank you all for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. We are shifting focus to some breaking news that's now coming in here on this edition of Viewpoint, and this is over the visit of Rahul Gandhi to Manipur. Amid the political war of words that we've witnessed over that particular visit, Rahul Gandhi has now come out and tweeted. He says, and I quote, "I came to listen to all my brothers and sisters of Manipur. People of all communities are being very welcoming and loving. It's very unfortunate that the government is stopping me. Manipur needs healing. Peace has to be our only priority." That's the tweet that has come to the fore from Rahul Gandhi. Pallavi Ghosh, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details. Now, Pallavi, even though the state government has been maintaining that Rahul Gandhi was warned that something like this could happen, which is why he was asked to not take the road route, Rahul Gandhi there and the Congress going on to say that it was the government, in fact, who did block him.
Yes, absolutely. And this was kind of expected because Congress sources were also telling us that we do anticipate that we are going to be stopped and that helps us politically. That's exactly, if you notice, the stream of tweets which are coming in from the Congress and the way Rahul Gandhi has also positioned this objection to him taking the road route as, an attempt being made by a BJP to try and stop him from reaching out to the people. This is pretty much the same argument he would give during the Bharat Jodo Yatra as well. Now, in terms of security, in terms of the ground situation, there's a strong case why the government wants to ensure that he does not take the road route. First of all, the local police is already very stretched. There are law and order issues, and they really want to use those forces as far as that is concerned. But on the other hand, the other problem which really remains is of the fact that he himself is a Z plus security, and it is very important that he gets that kind of a security. And for this purpose, they insisted that he takes that chopper rather than taking the road route.
And yet we see the kind of war words that is ensuing between the Congress and the BJP, the controversy not ending anytime soon, considering Rahul Gandhi is in the state even tomorrow. For the moment, Pallavi, though, thank you so much for getting us the latest. With that, it's time for a quick break here on this edition of Viewpoint. But on the other side, we have the big debate as far as India calling out Canada goes. S. Jaishankar called out Canada for going soft on Khalistani separatists. What are we expecting next? What can India do? And is it time for a wider diplomatic offensive? All that coming up after a quick break.
Speaking so openly and speaking perhaps his heart out when it comes to relations with Canada, because what Canada has been doing or perhaps has been involved in is something shocking, and also the way they are protecting or perhaps endorsing the separatist group is also against the integrity and security of India, and that has been retweeted by External Affairs Minister. Now look, Justin Trudeau's government is in minority. He doesn't have enough number to be in power. So he has done a coalition with NDP. Now NDP is being headed by Jagmeet Singh, who is a Khalistani sympathizer, separatist sympathizer. And because of this coalition politics compulsion, Justin Trudeau and his government is unable to take strict or perhaps strong action against these groups, even if they are violating laws, even if they are perhaps protesting in a violent manner outside Indian Foreign Office. Indian High Commissioner's dinner had to be cancelled in the month of March because of the protests of the Khalistanis. In fact, they had beaten up some Indians badly outside the venue, and that venue was booked by Indian community. So, case after case, incident after incident, there has been no response from the authorities in Canada, perhaps with regard to arresting these perpetrators or putting them behind the bars or taking action against them so that their morale breaks down. Nothing has been done. Last time around, when former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's tableau, that particular killing movement tableau was depicted in one of the Khalistani rallies, at that point in time, there was a condemnation which only came from Canadian High Commissioner to India's office. None of the senior ministers there in Canada had condemned it. Nobody from the government spoke about it. Only the High Commissioner to India had tweeted or perhaps said that we condemn it, it should not be allowed on the Canadian soil. So it clearly establishes the state's policy. It clearly establishes that the separatist group, those who talk about breaking India, those who talk about, those who conspire against India, are hand in glove with the government of Canada. And that is only because of the vote bank politics, because Mr. Trudeau knows that he cannot run his government without the support of NDP leader Jagmeet Singh. He cannot run the government because of the support of these radical elements, those who vote him to power. And this is the reason that Canada has given them a free hand to do whatever they want to do. And in fact, I'm talking about the element, those who protest against India. There are a lot of elements, those who do violent activities in India, or perhaps have been involved in criminal activities in India, are also sitting comfortably in Canada and perhaps threatening people back in India and getting people killed or executing the killings. So a lot is happening when it comes to Canada, and this is a reason That's the second time in a month External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has spoken so openly against the Canada, and he also said that the relations between the two countries have taken a hit because of perhaps the requirement of the vote bank politics, which Canadian government believes in.
Abhishek, since External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar mentioned that security and integrity that we are ensuring to safeguard, now what steps are supposed to be taken from India's side, to sort of make sure that these relationships are being maintained, at the same time the major concern is being sorted out?
See, as the Western Affairs Jaishankar has clearly mentioned that the bilateral ties have been impacted and affected in the last few years because of this Khalistani movement. But since there is a very broad presence of Indian diaspora in Canada that doesn't only belong to, the Sikh community or the communities that kind of are sympathetic towards this Khalistani separatism. So clearly there is a linkages that India and Canada both like to maintain. There is a higher number of students who go to Canada for studies. We have seen recently some controversy around that also. But apart from that, there are certain, defense deals also. Canada is a very natural resource rich country, so Indian investment is also eyeing in that country. So there is a very good potential between the two sides, but and both the sides have tried to escalate the bilateral relationship in terms of volume also. But in the recent years, especially in the last 5-6 years, we have seen increasing events that surrounding this Sikh separatism, and that happening that event is not that big an issue. The kind of actions that Canadian government has taken, that is concerning. They are very lax, and many times it seems that because of the vote bank politics, the Canadian government is not very keen on going after these separatist elements, and one after another, these separatist elements have tried to target Indian communities, the establishments. Indian temples have been defaced in the past. So unless until that is sorted, how can Indian government have a very good and healthy bilateral ties that encompasses in other areas of trade and strategic ties? This is something that External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar has highlighted yesterday, and Canadian government needs to take some concrete action that is seen. Every time just defending that we are letting them have a democratic space, that would not solve the problem of Khalistani issue in Canada.
Welcome back. We're 6 months into the year of 2023, and in those 6 months, at least 4 instances of anti-India hate, anti-India propaganda has been reported from across Canada. From defacing temples to portraying former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi's assassination on a tableau. Even the High Commissioner in Surrey was not spared by some of these pro-Khalistani elements who heckled and hurled slurs at the Indian community there. Today, India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar made perhaps the sharpest attack on the Canadian administration. S. Jaishankar said that Canada has often been seen as sympathetic to the separatist cause. They have refused to take action against such elements because they are constrained by their vote bank compulsions. S. Jaishankar said that Khalistani issue has been impacting the ties between the two countries in many ways in the recent past. In most of these cases, there has been inaction, and that is what is causing this strain in relations, was the clear message. He made it clear that for India, how Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern. India is often forced to respond as such actions of Canadian soil impinge upon national security of India and integrity as well. That was the clear message that S. Jaishankar sent. Now, it's not just India that has called out the Trudeau administration. These voices have been coming from within as well there in Canada. In fact, the Canadian MP, a former MP now, Ramesh Sangha from Toronto, was thrown out of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party for raising the issue of pandering to Khalistani separatists and harming the relationship with India. So if that in fact is a reality, where do we go from here? How does New Delhi ensure that these separatist elements do not run amok spreading propaganda against the Indian state on foreign soil? We'll find those answers on debate number 2.
How Canada has dealt with the Khalistani issue has been a long-standing concern, because very frankly, they seem to be driven by vote bank politics. and their responses have all been, to the best of my understanding, actually constrained by what they regard as vote bank compulsions on them. We made it very clear, and I've done so sometimes even in public, which is that if there are activities which are permitted from Canada, which impinge on our sovereignty, territorial integrity, on our security, then we will have to respond.
Joining me on this debate, Charan Singh Sapra, spokesperson of the Congress Party, S.S. Channi, BJP spokesperson from Punjab, activist Puneet Sahani also with me, and author Terry Milewski also joining us on this broadcast. And Terry, I'd like to begin by asking you, do you believe there is a separatist lobby in the power corridors of Canada?
Oh, there's absolutely no question about it. We have had a long history, as Mr. Jaishankar has pointed out, of pandering to Khalistani separatists in Canada. Politicians always basically supine, lying down and playing dead in the face of what amounts to a huge disinformation campaign. It's still going on today. As recently as 50 minutes ago, somebody tweeted about how, it was India that blew up Air India flight 182 in 1985. They did it. It was all India. All the evidence against the Air India bombers was rigged by the Indian government, and this kind of nonsense. And the Canadian government says nothing. It is time, obviously, for Canada to make a clean break with this nonsense and to stand up and say, look, we are not going to come to Vaisakhi parades that praise and glorify various Khalistani assassins through the years. We're not going to pander to you anymore. And we're going to say this publicly because it's time for India to play its part, the Indian politicians, including Mr. Jaishankar, to be very, very, very blunt and saying, you want access to the booming Indian marketplace, you want a free trade agreement. We're not going to deal with any minister that comes here with that story who is not going to publicly and explicitly condemn this disinformation by Khalistani separatists in Canada.
Absolutely. That line has to be drawn, and that line has been drawn, at least in terms of words. We've seen that, S.S. Channi, as far as Mr. S. Jaishankar, the highest perhaps at the level of which diplomatically this can be taken up with any country. But are we going to be seeing action? This has been taken diplomatically with Canada in the past, with other countries where we've seen these kind of instances happen as well.
Well, Mr. Jaishankar is very, very right in highly condemning the attitude of the Canadian government. But they must know that they are dealing with a very, very strong sovereign. We won't let them to play with the sovereignty or territorial integrity of the country. I'm wondering, even the people over there, 99.9% they have gone for living and for the betterment of their own prosperity. They are not really concerned, but some elements which are being encouraged by the Trudeau government especially, they are raising these kind of issues. But I must say and tell them again that once it's going to burn their house as well, because these guys are not going to spare them. And back home, there is no issue. We are from Punjab. There is nobody talks about this kind of Khalistan and what kind of Khalistan they are talking about. Let them identify the territorial parts of the which maybe in the Pakistan, maybe in the Afghanistan, as they call it, the regime of Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So what nonsense they are talking? Half of the Punjab has gone to Haryana and Himachal, and even Chandigarh is union territory. Whatever is left, they are going to spoil even that. And there is no support of any kind. But the Canadian government, they are not bothered about the letters of regulatory and even other kind of requests, and they are just playing to the vote bank politics. But ultimately, it will definitely burn their own house, because with the murders which are being are taking place, maybe of Niger, maybe of many others, and especially the air crash. I don't know what kind of people they are. They are known for civilization. What kind of behavior they are rendering and encouraging these kind of activities, which no human being on this earth will really support or promote. I think what is wrong, I don't know what is wrong with the Trudeau and his administration. This is not going to be taken very softly, and it won't be really tolerated. And we are making human and genuine requests that please look into all this and don't let if they have any issue, let them come home. Let them raise these issues. Nobody is bothered about all that. And they are letting Rather, one day I was having discussion and I told them, if you want a Khalsa, why don't you have it there? You are living there, your children are there, your own everything is there. You have it, and there are plenty of land available. But what kind of issues you are raising? Maybe it Pannu, maybe Linda, maybe Broad, whatever. So they must learn some lessons from these activities, and they must, as a civilized nation, they should support Indian government and its concern.
And like Mr. S. Jaishankar pointed out, that it has impacted ties between the two countries, that see each other as allies. That is something that should be a cause for concern for the Canadian government, Charan Singh Sapra, isn't it? But this has been going on for far too long. It's not just Canada. We've seen this happen in several other countries, including Australia as well. Why do you think we haven't been able to nip this in the bud? Why do you think pro-Khalistani elements feel that they can actually get away by doing things like this?
See, to some extent, Mr. Jaishankar is correct by saying that it is a vote bank politics, because rightly, if I may remind you, that Mr. Trudeau is running a minority government which is supported by National Democratic Party. And this National Democratic Party is headed by one Mr. Jagmeet Singh, who is a Khalistani sympathizer. So naturally, Trudeau will be, bending towards this National Democratic Party, and hence he doesn't want to take a severe action. But on the part of Indian government, I would like to say that mere lip service is not going to work. I would like to give you 2-3 instances now. Like on 2nd June, the NSA of Canada, Mr. Jody Thomas, he openly criticized Indian government. And he warned the Indian government by saying that don't meddle into Canadian affairs. This is our internal matter. So how can it be an internal matter when they are talking about Khalistan? The Indian government or Mr. Jaishankar or the NSA, Mr. Ajit Doval, should have reacted. They never reacted to it. Now, Mr. Terry was talking about the Air India bomb blast, in which 323 people died and 22 probably crew members also died. The Canadian people, they had a march to commemorate the death anniversary of the killer, death anniversary of the terrorist who bombed that Air India flight. That was the worst ever terrorist act, happened in 1985. They celebrated it. Indian government did not react. So there are so many instances happening in Canada month by month, but Indian government is not reacting to that. Mr. Jaishankar has definitely reacted today, but I treat that as mere lip service, and lip service is not going to work. On other hand, we are seeing there is a Indo-Canadian sort of gang war going on there. Mr. Nitter has been shot. Mr. Jimmy, there's another Gunda, Jimmy Sandhu. He was shot dead. Every week there is some shoot going on over there, and people have been killed. So these are the issues which are linked to India. These are the issues of concern. Indian government should take it on a global platform. We should treat this as a global terrorism, act of global terrorism. We should see that from where the funding is coming to them.
Sure.
The funding needs to be tracked and stopped.
Sure. More needs to be done by the Indian government. Ms. Chani says, the opposition says, the Congress party, that yes, this is one step in the right direction, the kind of words that S. Jaishankar has used, but it shouldn't stop at just words. We need to see action, is what the opposition says.
Absolutely, he's right, and you are right too. We are not going to leave it there, which is just a one-to-one kind of concern and sharing the the kind of deep deep wounds which we are having. But it will be definitely raised at the level of UN, and it will be a global issue for the other countries as well. And we have the kind of action which has been taken in case of UK, where Indian mission was attacked. And similarly, they should be thankful to Mr. Modi, who has cleared the blacklist. These guys were not in a position to, most of them, to visit back home India. But he was so kind and they cleared. But again, I think they are attempting to that we have another blacklist so that these people are brought to book. But ultimately, these people will be definitely brought to book, and our agencies are very active. Maybe NIA, maybe RAW and all. they won't be really spared, and we are going to have them back home.
That's really the hope, but it's easier said than done, Puneet Sahani, isn't it? Because we do have to depend on the administrations of those particular countries to actually take that action. Now, as far as Canada goes, and like we've been discussing, that there seems to be some political compulsions, which is why there has been no action that has been taken. And then we see these separatist groups, these separatist elements run completely amok. Where does that leave India then? And what do we do next, Puneet Sahani?
No, Poonam, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I would like to go to specifics. So, Mr. Jaishankar, he has said vote bank politics. It's not vote bank politics. It's terrorism. So first say it with the name. Like if you take out this tableau of Mrs. Gandhi and, of this assassin, this is terrorism. And, like how they bully everyone. And, what he's saying, we have expressed. Terry can tell you, the Canadian ambassador of that time, he wrote his autobiography, that Mrs. Gandhi would dress him down and personally say, what is Canada doing? And Canada did nothing. So I want Mr. Jaishankar not to, say big words and wave a twig. I want him to have speak softly, but use a big stick. So what has the Indian government done? This Mr. Spokesperson of Mr. BJP was saying, we have removed the blacklist. You should put the blacklist. You are removing the deterrent. Have you proscribed the WSO, which is doing this? You haven't done it. We have the High Commissioner level diplomatic relations with Canada. You can degrade it to the charge d'affaires level. This Captain Amrinder Singh was saying we should take Canada to the UN sanction. So again, if you think you are by saying big words or condemnation or by convincing that you can convince Canada, they are not doing it. I want to give you an example, Poonam. It's very important. So, they were talking of this biggest terrorist attack. You see, when this terrorist attack happened, the Canadian politicians are talking like it has happening like lightning or flood, that we condemned it and it is very sad. But they have not said who has done it. And this is actually very important because what Terry was saying, they are spreading this misinformation that Indian government has done it. Whereas the inquiry commission found it completely that Mr. Talvinder Singh Parmar, terrorist of Babbar Khalsa, he was the architect and the mastermind of this terrorist attack. And nobody has said it. And even this Mrs. Gandhi tableau, I was the one who raised this noise about it. And then it became news. So you see, they have the national politician who has condemned it. His name is Paul Pierre, who is like the right of the center, kind of like BJP party in Canada. That person did not have the guts to do it on Twitter. He went on his personal website and there he wrote a statement of condemnation. So, in future, if somebody asked him, if somebody asked him, he said, yeah, I had done it. So I had to dig out that statement and put it on Twitter. So it's not like, there is not a vote bank because the Sikhs are against it. But it's a Muslim brotherhood like this WSO, which has infiltrated and which is a pressure group. And all these politicians are basically, working in their hands. And this was exactly what happened in 1980s when they bombed the airplane. And this will happen again if they don't do it. And India should not just say big words, but actually use a stick. And you have a lot of things to do and they're not doing it. I don't want any statements or something, sorry, go ahead.
Can I point out that there is a good example of that? Somebody mentioned Captain Amarinder Singh, who during his term of office in, I believe, April of 2017, refused to receive the Canadian Defense Minister, no less, Harjit Sajjan, on the grounds that he believed that Sajjan was a Khalistani sympathizer. And what happened in response to waving that big stick? Canada caved. Minister Sajjan was forced to put out a statement saying, no, he absolutely did not support an independent Khalistan, and then Captain Amarinder graciously acknowledged his victory. And when Trudeau came in 2018 on his ill-fated journey, Captain Amarinder did in fact receive Sajjan. There's an example, but if there's any example that should light a fire under both sides of this, it is the obscene spectacle that we just saw 2 days on Sunday. We saw a rally, Puneet mentioned this, a rally, but as bad as he made it sound, it's actually worse. The rally was of Khalistanis waving Khalistan Zindabad flags, going to have their rally at the Air India Memorial. They befouled the Air India Memorial, lined up by the names of the 331 dead, and celebrated their big day of Khalistan. I mean, it was obscene. They basically danced on the graves of the victims. That, I think, ought to light a fire under this, under both sides of this, and certainly under the Indian side, to say, we've had enough. You have got to speak up about this. But Puneet is absolutely correct that we look in vain for clear, explicit public denunciations, not mealy-mouthed hidden ones, to make clear that Canada's not going to put up with this either. That would be a good start.
Absolutely. And when is that start going to come is the question many are asking, Mr. Channi. We've seen the kind of condemnation and kind of message that has come to the fore from S. Jaishankar today. But actions speak louder than words, and we need that action to happen.
Yes. You know, I just can't disclose what kind of action will be taken. But the whole world by now knows what Mr. Modi is and how strong he is the leader globally. And India is very, very strong sovereign nation, and we won't let anybody to play with our sovereignty and integrity of the country. And there are no numbers. I don't know what far they have been allowed to, you know, make so much hue and cry, noise and all over, and they are playing havoc with every kind of thing. But I think ultimately they will be taken care of, and we are not going to, you know, spare anybody who's playing with the.
Sure, but how is that going to happen, Ms. Channi? That's really the question. How are we going to see that happen?
You know, it has happened in case of UK. It has happened to some extent in case of Australia. It will happen in case of Canada as well. But we have been treating them as a civilized nation, which they are no longer, and they don't know what the UN is, what the other treaties are, and what kind of relation should be there. And it's very, very bad for the bilateral relation, trade and FTA and all those kind of things. They are going to pay, the country will, every country is looking at India for the business, and what kind of the government over there.
Absolutely. More reason why Canada should ensure that these things are dealt with, Puneet Sahni, isn't it? Because a lot is at stake. Today, we had the External Affairs Minister even come out and say that we know that this has been a long-standing concern and it is impacting ties between the two countries. It can't be that India is the only one losing out. Puneet.
You see, Poonam, you know, I just want to point, it's not the numbers. You see the influence that they take out Mrs. Gandhi's tableau. And, you know, no national politician condemns it. Or MPs, you know, what they have done. And it's such a, I don't know what kind of example they are setting for the Sikhs. I felt so ashamed that they want to show this world that, you know, we are some, you know, like what kind of animals we are. We are shooting an unarmed woman, an old woman, and take pleasure and, you know, like saying it. Anyways. You see, on the other side, this Gurdwara president, a thug and a plumber and a terrorist. And, you know, he almost certainly died for, you know, internal gang warfare. He died, and all these Khalistanis put pressure, and all the Canadian MPs are tweeting for him. They don't tweet when a democratically elected woman prime minister is, you know, perforated with bullets. And, you know, this rally is taken out for, you know, hours and kilometers. I forgot, it was 6.5 hours or something like that. No major politicians said, you know, we condemn this. And you see publicly on Twitter. But when this thug is killed, and, you know, he's a criminal, and, you know, there is a record, you know, he lied to the immigration officers again and again, you know, he made a fake claim, and he's a plumber. And this, he was an enemy of Malik. And that is but you know, the MPs are dying and they are saying, yeah, India must have done it.
So it's cutting across national parties in Canada. Charan Singh Sapra, go ahead. You had a point to make.
I just wanted to say that the Indian government should have a political will to make a comprehensive policy. We should have a comprehensive policy to tackle this this issue of Khalistan, which is again reoccurring now. This issue, if not countered now, will become a bigger issue, and it will be a pain for our country also, and for Canada also. The Canada government should be made to realize all this. So we should, even Indian government should have a political will, and they should make a comprehensive policy to tackle this Khalistani problem. I agree with one of the panelists who said that these Khalistani sympathizers, they are doing only for their own relevance. To be
absolutely, and that's not just the case with Canada. It's with everywhere else, every other country where we're seeing these kind of provocations, which is why we need a message to be sent loud and clear, and action needs to be ensured. I have to unfortunately leave it at that. I'm running out of time, but I thank you all, gentlemen, for joining us here on this broadcast. And with that, it's a wrap from my side here on this edition.
Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us. You're watching Plain Speak with me, Shivani Gupta. The abrogation of Article 370, the construction of Ram Temple in Ayodhya, and the implementation of a uniform civil code in India. These have been the BJP's long-standing agenda. The party has fulfilled 2 of its promises, and the remaining one is the implementation of UCC. Will One Nation, One Law become the key focal point for the BJP for the 2024 Lok Sabha elections? Well, it certainly looks like that. With less than 300 days remaining for the crucial general elections, the push for UCC has now come from the highest levels of the party and the government. During a rally in Bhopal, remember, Prime Minister Modi asserted that there cannot be 2 laws for one family and criticized opposition parties for, quote, inciting minority communities against UCC. The anti-BJP bloc, which recently met in Patna, remains divided over this concept. While the Aam Aadmi Party and the Uddhav Sena have provided conditional support to the very idea of a UCC, DMK, RJD, left parties are opposing it. Positions of the Congress, interestingly, are still unclear.